The person who continues to appear in your thoughts may hold a place in your heart for a reason. Even if your connection feels uncertain, complicated, or filled with unanswered questions right now, there may be something deeper beneath the surface that keeps bringing them back into your awareness. Their presence in your mind is not simply a random moment of imagination. It is not only because you feel lonely, vulnerable, or have nothing else to focus on. Something about this connection has created a lasting impression within your inner world. There are moments when you are not even trying to remember them, yet they appear naturally. When the outside world becomes quiet and your mind finally slows down, their image returns. They appear in the peaceful spaces between your thoughts, during those silent moments before sleep when your emotions are most honest. Sometimes, in the middle of a completely normal day, a memory, a feeling, or a simple reminder of them suddenly enters your mind without warning. You could be focused on your responsibilities, spending time with others, enjoying a conversation, or feeling completely at peace, and then suddenly something reminds you of them. Their smile, their voice, their presence, or a moment you shared together rises within you effortlessly. You do not force these thoughts to appear. They arrive on their own. Maybe you have tried to move past this connection. Maybe you have told yourself that it is time to let go and focus on a different chapter of your life. You may have reminded yourself of the distance between you, the confusion, the lack of communication, or the things that were never fully explained. You may have questioned whether your feelings are based on reality or whether you are simply holding on to something that no longer exists. You might have asked yourself why this person still matters so much when there are so many unanswered questions. Why does your heart continue returning to them when your mind tells you that you should already be moving forward? But even after trying to distract yourself, even after convincing yourself that you are finally ready to release the connection, they continue to return. Quietly, consistently. They remain somewhere within your thoughts and emotions. This does not mean there is something wrong with you. It does not mean you are weak, desperate, or unable to move on. It simply suggests that something about this connection has not reached a complete sense of closure within you. There is still an emotional thread that has not been fully understood or resolved. Some connections leave a deeper mark than others. They are not always created through logic, planning, or conscious decisions. They develop through shared experiences, emotions, memories, and moments that hold meaning. Sometimes, two people create a bond that reaches beyond ordinary interactions. And even when life creates distance, the impact of that bond remains. When someone continues appearing in your thoughts without effort, it can reflect emotions that were never fully expressed. Perhaps there were feelings that remained unspoken. Perhaps there were moments between you that carried more meaning than either person openly acknowledged. Not every important connection receives a clear explanation or a perfect ending. It is possible that this person thinks about you as well, even if they have not reached out or revealed what they feel. People do not always express their emotions through words or actions immediately. Sometimes they remain silent because they are uncertain, afraid, overwhelmed, or trying to understand their own feelings. Silence does not always mean the absence of emotion. Sometimes people carry thoughts and feelings privately because they do not know what step to take next. They may care but struggle with fear, circumstances, timing, or their own inner conflicts. You may experience unexpected moments when you feel connected to them. A sudden wave of nostalgia, a feeling of warmth, a moment of sadness or longing that appears without an obvious reason. These emotions can feel powerful because meaningful connections often continue influencing us beneath the surface. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are simply experiencing something human. The heart does not always release something meaningful just because the mind decides it should. When someone has touched your life in a significant way, their impact remains until it has been understood, accepted, healed, or transformed. However, This connection does not mean you should stop living your life or wait endlessly for someone else. It does not mean you should ignore your own growth, happiness, or personal journey. Instead, it means that what you experienced had value. It meant something. It became a part of your story. Confusion does not erase genuine feelings. Distance does not automatically remove emotional connection. Silence does not always represent a lack of care. Sometimes silence exists because there are struggles, fears, or uncertainties that are happening internally. You may receive answers someday, or you may discover your own understanding without ever receiving every explanation you hoped for. But whatever happens, your feelings and experiences remain real. The emotions you carry are not meaningless. They represent something that affected you and changed the way you see yourself and relationships. If this person continues returning to your thoughts, it may be because something within this connection still feels incomplete. That does not necessarily mean the story must continue forever in the same form. It simply means it had importance, and things that deeply matter often require time before the heart can peacefully release or redefine them. During this period, be patient with yourself. Do not criticize your emotions or force yourself to stop caring before you are ready. Healing and understanding do not always happen instantly. Sometimes they unfold slowly, revealing lessons that were hidden beneath the surface. Some connections enter our lives not only to stay, but also to transform us. They teach us about love, vulnerability, self-worth, and our ability to experience emotions deeply. Even moments of uncertainty can carry meaning. Even silence can reveal something important about ourselves. When someone occupies your thoughts repeatedly over a long period of time, it often shows that the emotional impact of that connection is still present. Even if you no longer communicate regularly, even if circumstances created separation, and even if time has passed longer than expected, your mind is not necessarily holding on to something without purpose. If you feel a deep connection with someone despite distance and silence, it may be because your heart recognizes something that never received a proper conclusion. Human beings are often not troubled by what is complete. We are affected most by what remains open, unanswered, and emotionally unfinished. Notice the moments when this person comes to mind. Maybe it happens when something beautiful occurs and they are the first person you wish you could tell. Maybe after achieving something important, experiencing a small victory, hearing something funny, or seeing something meaningful, your instinct is to imagine sharing that moment with them. Those moments reveal the emotional significance they still hold in your inner world. Some people leave memories that fade quickly, while others leave an impression that continues because they touched a deeper part of who we are. The Jungian path reminds us that the unconscious mind often carries emotions, memories, and meanings that we have not fully processed yet. Sometimes, what repeatedly appears in our thoughts is an invitation to understand ourselves more deeply, to explore what the connection represented, and to discover what our heart is trying to communicate. A person who remains in your thoughts is not always a sign that you should chase them. Sometimes it is a reminder to listen inwardly, to understand what this experience awakened within you, and to recognize the growth that came from it. Every meaningful connection leaves something behind: a lesson, a memory, a change within the soul. And whether this person returns to your life or simply remains a powerful chapter of your past, the impact they created cannot be denied. Allow yourself to feel without judgment. Allow yourself to understand without rushing. Some bonds take time to make sense, and sometimes the greatest clarity comes when we stop fighting our emotions and begin listening to what they are trying to teach us. You may find yourself wanting to share the smallest moments of your life with them. Things that seem ordinary to everyone else can feel surprisingly meaningful when it comes to this person. A simple thought, a funny experience, a small achievement, or a beautiful moment can create the feeling that they are the one you naturally want to tell. Even while your own life continues moving forward with responsibilities, conversations, and daily routines, a part of you may still wonder how they are doing, what they are feeling, or what is happening within their world. Sometimes the connection you feel is not only about wanting their physical presence. It feels like a pull toward their emotions, their thoughts, and the energy you associate with them. This type of emotional attachment can happen when two people have created a deep understanding with each other, even if they are currently separated by distance, circumstances, or silence. What many people fail to understand is that a meaningful bond does not disappear simply because communication stops. The absence of messages does not automatically erase what was shared. Time apart does not instantly remove the emotional impact two people created together. When a connection reaches a deeper level, it often becomes part of the unconscious mind. The unconscious does not measure relationships through simple logic, deadlines, or visible actions. It responds to emotional significance, personal meaning, memories, and experiences that have not yet found complete resolution. If this person continues returning to your thoughts, it may be because a part of you feels that something about this story remains unfinished. Something still seeks understanding. Something still needs to be acknowledged. But remember, many people carry hidden struggles that are invisible to the outside world. There are individuals who have spent years protecting themselves emotionally because opening their hearts once caused them deep pain. They learn to appear strong and independent because vulnerability feels dangerous. They may desire love and affection deeply, yet when genuine care appears, they become afraid because peace feels unfamiliar. Some people become so accustomed to emotional chaos that a healthy connection feels uncomfortable at first. They may question kindness, doubt consistency, or fear losing something they have finally found. Behind their distance, there may be unresolved wounds, old fears, or personal battles that they have never shared. If this person truly has feelings for you, their inner conflict may be far more complicated than you realize. However, there is an important truth that must also be understood. Love by itself cannot transform someone who refuses to face their own emotional patterns. You cannot heal another person's wounds by constantly sacrificing your own peace. You cannot carry the responsibility of someone else's growth while ignoring your own needs. A genuine connection requires effort from both sides. It requires emotional awareness, honesty, accountability, and the willingness of both people to grow. Compassion is powerful, but self-respect is equally important. Some people remain distant because they are still affected by previous relationships. Some are caught between what they desire and what they believe they are responsible for. Some feel they are not deserving of the love they receive. Others believe they must become a better version of themselves before allowing someone close again. The human mind often returns to the places where the heart still has unanswered questions. This is why thoughts of them may appear during quiet moments, peaceful evenings, or times when you are emotionally open. When distractions disappear, the deeper parts of your mind become louder. At night, when everything becomes still, emotions that were hidden during the day often rise naturally. During moments of silence, memories can return without warning. This does not mean you are intentionally creating these thoughts. It means something deeper within you is still processing the importance of this connection. Thoughts that arrive without invitation often come from emotional layers we have not fully explored yet. But there is another important part of this experience. When you think about this person, you are not only remembering them, you are also remembering yourself during the moments when you felt connected, understood, and emotionally alive. Some people awaken qualities within us that were hidden for a long time. They make us feel seen in a way that changes how we view ourselves. They bring out emotions, dreams, and parts of our personality that we may have forgotten existed. When that connection becomes distant, It can feel like losing more than just another person. It can feel like losing access to a version of yourself that existed when they were present. This is why the longing can feel deeper than simple attraction. It is connected to the emotional experience they represented in your life. Sometimes two people who care about each other remain apart, not because feelings are missing, but because fear, timing, personal struggles, or circumstances create barriers between them. You may sense that something is preventing both of you from moving closer, and that feeling may come from recognizing the unresolved emotions between you. When emotions remain active without a clear conclusion, the mind continues revisiting the connection because it is searching for understanding. There may also be moments when your feelings seem confusing. One day you feel completely at peace and believe you have moved forward. Then, suddenly, a song, a place, a memory, or a simple thought brings everything back again. This emotional movement is normal. It reflects the difference between your logical mind and your emotional self. One part of you may be trying to protect you and encourage you to move forward, while another part is still acknowledging the importance of what happened. Healing does not mean pretending something never mattered. Healing means understanding why it affected you and what it is teaching you now. Sometimes a connection remains in your thoughts because there are still lessons hidden within it. Sometimes it remains because there are conversations that were never completed. And sometimes it remains because both people are still growing individually before they can understand each other fully. People rarely grow at exactly the same pace. Emotional timing is not always synchronized. If you feel that someone cares about you but continues to remain distant, they may be facing an internal struggle that you cannot see. They may feel the same emotional pull toward you. They may think about you more often than you realize. They may wonder if you still hold feelings for them. Yet instead of moving forward immediately, they hesitate. That hesitation may come from fear of rejection, fear of disappointment, fear of losing control, or fear of changing their current circumstances. Sometimes people delay action not because they feel nothing, but because they feel too much and do not know how to handle it. Love does not always appear through dramatic gestures or obvious declarations. Sometimes it exists quietly through reflection, hesitation, and careful decisions. Sometimes people stay silent while trying to understand what they truly want. The lack of visible action does not always prove the absence of emotion. What matters most for you right now is not trying to force a specific outcome. What matters is understanding what this connection is revealing about you. Every meaningful relationship teaches something. It may be teaching you patience. It may be teaching you self-worth. It may be reminding you to stop chasing what needs to come naturally. It may be preparing you for a reunion, or it may be preparing you for peaceful acceptance and release. Either way, you are not foolish for caring. You are not weak because someone continues to cross your mind. You are simply responding to an experience that left a meaningful impression on your heart. When something truly matters, it does not disappear instantly. If this person cares for you and distance still exists between you, then perhaps time is allowing both of you to grow, heal, and become more emotionally prepared. Deep connections often require patience because anything meaningful requires readiness. Do not criticize yourself for the thoughts that appear. Do not force them to mean something they do not. But also do not ignore them completely. Pay attention to the emotions that arrive with these thoughts. Do you feel peace, warmth, sadness, hope, longing? Your emotions can reveal important truths about what this connection represents for you. Remember this. What is truly meant for you will never require you to destroy yourself in the process. It may require patience and personal growth, but it will never demand that you abandon your own happiness, dignity, or emotional balance. Whether this bond eventually becomes something more or slowly becomes a meaningful chapter of your past, it is shaping you in ways you may not fully understand yet. And if one day the distance disappears naturally, It will happen because both people have reached a place where fear no longer controls their choices. Until then, trust your journey. Allow understanding to come with time. Not every meaningful connection reveals its purpose immediately. Sometimes the deepest bonds are understood only after we have grown enough to see why they entered our lives. When someone continues appearing in your thoughts from morning until night, there may be an emotional connection beneath the surface that still feels alive. And sometimes, even without words, the other person may also be carrying memories, feelings, or thoughts about you that they have never expressed openly. Yes, the person you cannot stop thinking about may still hold deep feelings for you, even if those feelings have never been openly expressed. Love does not always appear through obvious actions, dramatic words, or immediate decisions. Sometimes it exists quietly through patience, hesitation, and the desire to protect something meaningful. Someone can truly care about you and still struggle to move closer. Love and readiness are not always the same. A person may feel deeply connected to you while personal fears, difficult circumstances, or emotional barriers prevent them from taking action. They may believe you deserve more than they can currently give. They may see your kindness and value, but feel uncertain about whether they are ready to offer the same level of love in return. They may fear disappointing you, hurting you, or bringing unresolved issues into something they consider special. Sometimes the reason for distance is not a lack of feeling, but an internal battle. They may carry wounds from past experiences, broken trust, or relationships that change the way they approach love. Even when they meet someone who feels different, old fears can still create hesitation. Opening their heart may feel risky, because vulnerability means allowing someone the power to hurt them. So they step back. They remain quiet. They hold back the words they want to say, not because they feel nothing, but because what they feel may be difficult for them to handle. When emotions are casual, people often act without fear. They communicate freely and take chances easily. But when someone feels that a connection truly matters, they become more careful. They begin thinking about consequences, timing, and whether they are emotionally prepared. Deep feelings often create responsibility. They do not only think about protecting themselves, they may also worry about protecting you from their own struggles. This is why distance can exist even when emotions remain strong. One part of them may feel drawn toward you, remembering the connection and the impact you have had on their life. Another part may be filled with fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They may silently ask themselves, "What if I cannot give them what they deserve? What if I hurt them because I am not ready? What if my past affects something beautiful? What if getting closer creates more pain?" These questions do not come from indifference. They often come from someone who understands that love carries meaning and consequences. Sometimes a person creates distance because they are overwhelmed by the intensity of their emotions. They may not know how to love without fear. They may not fully trust themselves with something that feels so important. For them, silence can feel safer than vulnerability. But this silence can be painful for the person waiting. It can make you question whether the connection was real or whether you are holding on to something that only exists in your mind. However, meaningful connections are not always simple. Sometimes love appears through uncertainty, hesitation, and emotional conflict. A person who cares deeply but stays distant may still think about you. They may remember conversations, replay memories, and imagine what could happen between you. Yet fear may cause them to step back again. They may believe they need to become stronger, more stable, or more prepared before they can truly offer what you deserve. They may convince themselves that distance is protecting both of you from future pain. But feelings that are deeply rooted do not disappear simply because someone chooses silence. They remain beneath the surface, waiting for growth, healing, and clarity. Love does not always look like constant communication or obvious pursuit. Sometimes it appears as patience. Sometimes it appears as someone quietly fighting their own fears while still caring deeply. If you feel a strong connection with someone, it does not mean your emotions are meaningless. Some bonds leave a lasting impression that cannot be explained only through logic. Distance does not always mean the absence of love. Sometimes it represents the difference between what someone feels and what they are currently capable of expressing. With time, people can change. Fear can become weaker. Old wounds can heal. The barriers that once prevented closeness can slowly disappear. Until then, their distance may be their way of finding emotional balance. But for you, that distance can feel heavy. You may notice every change, every moment when warmth turns into hesitation, and every time your mind returns to the same person. Perhaps this happens because the connection left a meaningful mark. The strongest bonds are not always the easiest ones. Some move slowly. Some go through silence and uncertainty before their purpose becomes clear. Certain people remain in our thoughts because they touched something deeper within us. A song can bring back memories. A familiar place can make you feel their presence again. Even their name can awaken emotions you thought had faded. Some connections continue beyond words because they are connected to something deeper than communication alone. If this message speaks to your heart, remember that every connection has its own timing. Allow growth, healing, and understanding to unfold naturally. Not every silence means the end. Sometimes, silence is simply the space where emotions, courage, and clarity are still developing.